I thought you hid your feelings because you didn't care, but you hid them because you cared too much. You appeared reckless, but you were simply trying to find your way through an emotional maze. I thought you didn't feel pain, but you carried it quietly, like a secret no one should know. Your heart was a battlefield, and every scar told a story of silent victory. I thought your love was fleeting, but it was the most steadfast I have ever seen. You acted like you didn't care, but your eyes betrayed 1,000 unspoken emotions. I believed you were indifferent until I saw how deeply you suffered in solitude. Your tears weren't foolish. They were a cleansing storm washing away the weight of your past. I thought your silence meant you were empty, but it was full of words you couldn't say. You seemed lost, but you were searching for yourself in the darkest parts of your soul. I thought you didn't value love, but you treasured it in a way no one else understood. You masked your pain with jokes, but inside, your heart was quietly breaking. I thought you were cold, but you were just scared to be hurt again. Your emotions weren't reckless. They were a language of love, waiting to be heard. I thought you avoided love, but you were protecting a heart too fragile to risk again. You appeared careless, but you guarded your feelings like priceless gems. I believed you were strong, yet your tears showed me your beautiful vulnerability. You carried the weight of your past alone, and that made your strength invisible to me. I thought you didn't believe in forever, but your heart held onto hope quietly. Your pain was a poem written in silence, and I never learned to read it. I thought you were reckless with promises, but you feared breaking your own heart first. You shut me out not because you didn't love me, but because you were afraid to lose yourself. I thought your love was shallow, but it ran deeper than oceans. I could never swim. You fought battles inside that no one else could see, and I admired your quiet courage. I thought you didn't trust easily, but your heart was simply waiting for the right moment. Your emotions were wildfires, burning fiercely, but also cleansing the old pain away. I thought you didn't need anyone, but you need someone to simply stand beside you. You carried your scars like badges of honor, each one telling a story of survival. I thought you were numb, but your soul was aching for a love that felt safe. Your silence was louder than words, and I never learned to listen properly. I thought you didn't care about the past, but it shaped the beautiful person you became. You hid your feelings because you were scared to be misunderstood, and I wish I saw that sooner. I thought you were selfish, but you loved in a way that was selfless beyond measure. Your tears were not signs of defeat, but the marks of your unyielding hope. I thought you didn't believe in second chances, but your heart quietly held onto everyone. You wore your pain like a cloak, hiding the radiant soul underneath. I thought you didn't want to be vulnerable, but you were just afraid of being broken again. Your heart was a maze, and it got lost trying to find the path to your love. I thought you didn't dream big, but your soul held dreams larger than the stars. You loved with such intensity that I mistook it for recklessness, but it was true courage. I thought you didn't listen, but you heard every unspoken word of my heart. You seemed distant, but your heart was closer than I ever imagined. I thought your tears were weakness, but they were the strongest act of bravery I ever saw. Your love was a quiet revolution, breaking down walls no one dared to challenge. I thought you avoided pain, but you faced it daily with silent resilience. I thought you were careless with time, but you were waiting for the right moment to show your heart. Your emotions weren't chaos. They were the beautiful failure of a deeply feeling soul. I thought you didn't want me, but you were afraid to admit how much you needed me. You loved in ways that words couldn't capture, and I'm still learning to appreciate that. I thought you were broken, but your soul was simply healing in its own perfect time. Your silence spoke volumes, and I failed to listen to the language of your heart. I thought you didn't care about us, but you fought for love in ways I never understood. You wore your vulnerability like a crown, and that made you the strongest person I knew. I thought you didn't trust love, but your heart was simply afraid to fall again. Your emotions were not foolish. They were the deepest expression of your true self. I thought you didn't want to be seen, but you were waiting for the right eyes to notice. You hid behind jokes, but your heart was quietly bleeding for someone to stay. I thought your feelings were reckless, but they were the purest form of your truth. You held your heart close, afraid that love might shatter the fragile pieces inside. I thought your silence meant you were empty, but it was full of unsaid love. You were a mystery wrapped in emotions I never learned to understand fully. I thought you didn't care, but you loved deeply, in ways words could never express. Your tears were not a sign of defeat, but a sign of your incredible strength. I thought you were cold-hearted, but you were simply protecting a wounded soul. You hid your pain behind smiles, and I never realized the storm inside you. I thought your love was fleeting, but it was the kind that lasts forever. You struggled silently, and that struggle made you more courageous than I ever knew. I thought you avoided love, but you were guarding your heart with fierce devotion. Your emotions were a dance of vulnerability and strength, and I was lucky to witness it. I thought you didn't trust easily, but your heart was waiting patiently for someone worthy. You carried your scars like a warrior, and each one told a story of survival. I thought you were reckless, but you were simply learning how to protect your heart. Your love was quiet, steady, and unshakable even in the toughest storms. I thought you didn't need anyone, but you craved connection more than you admitted. You were afraid to open up, but every time you did, you showed true bravery. I thought your heart was closed, but it was just waiting for the right key. You loved with such intensity that it scared you sometimes, but that love was real. I thought you didn't feel pain, but your soul carried wounds deeper than I could see. Your emotions were not a burden, but the essence of your beautiful humanity. I thought you avoided vulnerability, but you were learning to embrace it slowly. You wore your heart on your sleeve, and that made you both fragile and fierce. I thought you didn't believe in forever, but your hope was quietly unbreakable. Your silence was a language of love. I wished I had learned to speak sooner. I thought you were indifferent, but your heart was full of unsung poetry. You hid your true feelings to protect yourself, and that made your love even stronger. I thought your tears were weakness, but they were the bravest things I ever saw. You fought battles inside that no one else knew, and that made you a true hero. I thought you didn't listen, but you heard every whisper of my heart's pain. Your love was a quiet flame that never faded, even in the darkest nights. I thought you were numb, but your soul was aching for something real and pure. You masked your pain with laughter, and I never realized the depth behind your smile. I thought you were careless with trust, but you treasured it like the rarest gem. Your heart was a garden, and every emotion was a flower blooming in its own time. I thought you didn't want to be loved, but you were afraid to ask for it. You loved without conditions, and that made your love both rare and precious. I thought you didn't believe in second chances, but your heart held onto hope fiercely. Your emotions were a symphony, complex and beautiful beyond any words. I thought you were reckless, but you were just brave enough to love despite the risks. You held back your feelings to protect us both, and that was the greatest act of love. I thought your heart was broken, but it was just learning how to heal itself. Your silence spoke louder than words, and I wish I had listened more carefully. I thought you didn't care, but you fought quietly for us every single day. You wore your vulnerability like a crown, and that made you the strongest person I knew. I thought you didn't trust easily, but your heart was simply scared to fall again. Your emotions weren't foolish. They were the deepest expression of your true self. I thought you didn't want to be seen, but you were waiting for the right eyes to notice. You hid behind jokes, but your heart was quietly pleading for someone to stay. I thought you were reckless, but you were bravely learning how to love without fear. Your heart was a sacred place, and I was honored to be let inside even a little. I thought you didn't feel deeply, but your love was fierce and all-consuming beneath the surface. You shut me out to protect yourself, and I mistook it for not caring. I thought you were careless, but you guarded your feelings like priceless gems. Your pain was invisible, yet it shaped every choice you made and every word left unsaid. I believed your silence meant you didn't care, but it was your way of protecting a fragile soul. I thought you were weak, but you survived battles within no one else could see. You seemed cold, but beneath it was a fire burning with vulnerability and hope. I thought your heart was closed, but it was a fortress built to keep the world out. I thought you were an emotional fool, but every tear you shed was a secret strength I never understood. You seemed careless with your feelings, but I was wrong. Your heart held storms I couldn't see. I judged your silence as weakness, yet it was the loudest cry for someone to listen and stay. I thought you never felt deeply, but your quiet pain echoed louder than words ever could. You wore your emotions like armor, and I mistook it for foolishness instead of survival. I thought you were lost inside your own heart, but you were navigating battles I never asked about. You seemed reckless with love, yet you guarded it like a fragile treasure, afraid to let it break. I thought you were an emotional fool until I realized you were just a wounded soul, learning to heal. Your laughter hid the cracks in your spirit, and I only saw the surface, never the depths beneath. I thought your heart was made of stone, but it was beating fiercely under layers of pain. You carried invisible scars, and I mistook them for scars you caused others, not yourself. I believed you didn't care, but your actions spoke a language of love I was too blind to learn. You did speak much, but when you did, your words held the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. I thought your anger was reckless, but it was the passion of a heart breaking in silence. You seemed reckless with your tears, but those tears were the purest form of your hidden courage. I mistook your loneliness for pride, but you were screaming for someone to hold you close. You wore your heart on your sleeve, and I took it for weakness, not the bravery it truly was. I thought you didn't love enough, but you loved too much for a heart so fragile. You ran from your feelings, but every step was a silent plea to be understood, not judged. I thought you were careless with trust, but you were just afraid to be hurt again. Your pain was invisible, yet it shaped every choice. You made in every word left unsaid. I believed your silence meant you didn't care, but it was your way of protecting a fragile soul. I thought you were weak, but you survived battles within that no one else could see. You seemed cold, but beneath it was a fire burning with vulnerability and hope. I thought your heart was closed, but it was a fortress built to keep the world out. You wore pain like a mask, hiding the beauty of your soul from those who never cared to look. I thought you didn't need anyone, but you needed love more than you ever showed. You were afraid to fall apart, so you held it all in, even when it broke you. I thought you were indifferent, but your heart was quietly breaking, piece by piece. Your emotional battles were fought in silence, and I never learned to hear the war cries. I thought you didn't feel deeply, but your love was fierce and all-consuming beneath the surface. You shut me out to protect yourself, and I mistook it for not caring. I thought you were reckless, but you were just lost in the chaos of your own emotions. You carried a storm inside, and I didn't know how to hold the lightning. I thought you were careless with love, but you were just afraid of losing yourself again. Your emotional scars told stories of battles I never saw, and that made you stronger than I knew. I thought you were numb, but you felt everything too deeply to show it. You feared being vulnerable, so you built walls that I never tried hard enough to break. I thought you didn't care about us, but you were fighting your own battles just to stay alive. You hid your pain in smiles, and I didn't realize how heavy your heart was carrying. I thought you were an emotional fool, but you were a wounded warrior learning to survive. Your tears were not signs of weakness, but the courage it took to face your own truth. I thought you gave up too easily, but you were fighting wars no one else saw. You masked your feelings with jokes, but beneath that laughter was a heart begging to be seen. I thought you didn't love enough, but your love was quiet, steady, and endlessly patient. You struggled to find words for your pain, and I never gave you the space to speak. I thought you avoided emotions, but you simply feared the intensity of your own heart. You were scared to fall in love again, and I didn't understand the battles you fought inside. I thought you were reckless, but you were just trying to survive the chaos inside you. Your silence wasn't indifference. It was protection from a world that never learned to listen. I thought you were careless with feelings, but you hid them to keep yourself safe. You felt like an emotional fool because you loved too hard in a world that taught you not to. I thought your heart was broken beyond repair, but it was just waiting for the right love to heal it. You gave up on yourself before anyone else did, and I never realized how much pain that took